to order. Can everybody be seated, please? Welcome to the February meeting of the North End Ways Park Council. My name is Phil Frateroli. I am the president. While he's here, I'd like to take a minute to thank Stephen Pasquichelli, who has stepped down as president tonight. He was on the board for 7 years and was president for 4 years. So I just want to take a quick minute to thank him for his service and now working in the mayor's office. So I'd like to start with a quick roll call. Stephen Marks.
Maria Lanza.
John Franklin.
Philip Frateroli.
Ralph Rocky.
Tony Gelati.
Ryan Kenny. Gennaro Riccio.
And now the meeting protocol from the new Vice President, John Franklin.
Well, the meeting will be conducted according to parliamentary rules. The President will have the final word on the conduct of the meeting and will cast a vote only in the event the rest of the council reaches a tie. The President will recognize the speaker to make the presentation or statement, and then he will permit the council to ask questions. We will then open the floor to questions from the audience, and each audience member should introduce themselves by name and street address. No person will speak until they have been recognized by the President.
Thank you. And now for a report from the offices of local officials. I'm going to start with our district city councilor, Salvatore Latino.
Sure, I was gonna wait till the end. No, I wanna go down. You're going there, right? Good evening. I'm here just to say hi and to thank you all for the work that you're doing for the neighborhood. And also to, where's Steve? Here he is. And to congratulate Stephen on 5 years as the chairman of the neighborhood council. Did a great job, and as you know, Stephen worked for me for many years, and now he moved on to bigger and better things, working in the mayor's office. So very excited about that. Very excited that we have a new mayor and a new city council. Just recently, just for your information, I was named chairman of economic development, and what I want to do with that committee is I really want to focus on Boston Harbor for the next 2 years. Particularly where we have 2 ferries for the BRA. We're in the process right now building 2 ferries. Right now the plans are for the ferries to go from East Boston, Charlestown to South Boston. But I also want to make sure that on the weekends, if possible, definitely on the weekends, that we include the North End. So there's a complete circle around Boston Harbor. And what I also want to see is more activities on the Boston Harbor. Particularly in the East Boston side, there's a lot of vacant land trying for development, and there's some opportunities in the North End, Charlestown. And as you know, South Boston's already booming at the seaport. So I'm looking for that opportunity. I'm still I was chair for 7 years for the city and neighborhood services and veterans affairs. Right now, I'm the vice chair. Councilor McCarthy is the chairperson for that committee. Councilor McCarthy comes from Public Works. He worked for many years in Public Works, so he'll be chairing that committee. I'll be his vice chair. One of the things that will continue, as you know, I've been working for the last 7 years in the cleanliness of our neighborhoods. We will have a meeting on March 3rd at City Hall at 6:30 in regards to changing the hours of trash collection. There was Tony Gelati and I'm supposed to be. I received a petition last November from over 800 residents from the North End looking to change the hours of operations from hours of pickup. Presently, you can put out your trash at 5 o'clock at night, pick up at 7 in the morning. So your trash is out there minimum 14 hours a day, 3 days a week. And as you know, we have a lot of issues in regards to people going into trash bags, ripping trash bags, how people put out their trash bags. So I'm hoping that we will address that issue on how people put out the trash and just limit the hours between 6 and 9. And I think you'll see a big difference. Met with Public Works, acting commissioner, about 2 weeks ago and talked to him about the issue of trash in this neighborhood. And he committed a Hokie to me, to the North End. Unfortunately, we had a snowstorm that Monday, so I don't know if the Hokie got out, but We will have a hokey. Street cleaning starts, believe it or not, March 1st. So in another couple of weeks, 3 weeks, we'll continue with street cleaning programs, which I think has been very successful. It started here in the North End, where we started street cleaning March 1st through December 31st. And they made a difference in this neighborhood, and other neighborhoods are looking to do the same, and they did that recently in the South End. So those are some of the issues I'll continue to work on, and hopefully working with this council to address some new issues in the neighborhood. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Maria Popolo from Senator Petruccelli's office is here.
Hi, everybody. I personally actually don't have any announcements. I'm just making the quick announcement since we're in the announcement window. Nicoleo's on her way here. She has some information about Boston Shines. So another date has been set, so she should be here possibly a little later on. And she has the date for, again, Boston Shines.
Patrick Lyons from Representative Michael.
How you doing, guys? Nothing to update you on. We just want to recognize Stephen for his great work in the, as president. He cares a lot about this neighborhood, and he's done some great things. And congratulate him on his new position, and he'll do some good work for the North End.
Are there any other representatives?
Hi, Jessie Zimmer from Councilor Ayanna Presley's office. I don't have any announcements, but hello from the councilor. Thank you, Stephen, for your work, and good luck to the new chair of the council.
Okay, now for the committee reports, beginning with resident parking and traffic, Ryan Kenny.
No updates.
Public Safety Committee, David Mark.
Hello, everyone. Just want to remind everyone before I get into the details that our public safety meeting here in the North End, that's run by the local Area A1 Police Department, is held here in this room the first Thursday of every month at 6:30 p.m. In the last 30 days or so, leading up to last Thursday's most recent meeting, there were 12 loud party calls. There were 3 arrests. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about that car chase that took place a couple weeks ago. That was a 52-year-old suspect who had a very lengthy record. There was also a warrant arrest pertaining to a woman from South Boston who was allegedly a heroin addict. She was arrested on Commercial Street. And at 339 Hanover Street, there was an arrest. It was a man from Randolph, Mass. Was pulled over by the police, and he caused a big commotion. They told him to take it down a bit. He wouldn't listen, so they had no choice but to arrest him. There was a long, extensive discussion about licensed premises and violations and tickets that have been issued over the last few months. Baco was cited at 2:20 in the morning a few weeks ago. It was observed that there were patrons sitting at the bar drinking, and music was being played via an amplified music system after the terms of their 1 a.m. license. So they were cited, and they were ordered, the manager of the restaurant was ordered to clear out the bar immediately. Rich Grealish has been attending our public safety meetings as well. He's kind of an outreach director from Suffolk University. He rides along in the North End in the loud party car that goes through the North End every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night while school is in session from the hours of 11:45 p.m. to 3:45 a.m. And they usually start off the night by running up and down Endicott Street, Salem Street, and Hanover Street in particular, about 4 well-known problem addresses on each of those streets, just to take a look and see how everything's going on, If there are any issues regarding loud parties, the loud party hotline is 617-549-7503. That is all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, John is leaving out that he's been named by the group as the chairman of the North End Public Safety Meeting.
Yes, apparently that somehow, I thought it was already official,
Yeah.
but I guess it was officially recognized at Thursday's meeting. So to me, that was already anticlimactic. So no worries there.
We're always looking for exciting announcements in this meeting. Next is the Greenway Committee, John Bergman.
Okay, thanks. Well, in lieu of my report tonight, we have Jesse Brackenberry, who we've known for a while, and as well as Amy Dwyer. Jesse's our new ED at the Rose Kennedy Greenway, so he wanted to come tonight and say hello and offer remarks. So,
Sure. I wanted to reintroduce myself to many of you. I have been with the Conservancy for a little over 4 years now, and have been serving as the acting executive director for the last year. And then, in a bit of anticlimax, I suppose, I was made the executive director about 2 weeks ago. And so I wanted to come with that and say, I won't be able to attend all of these meetings. I actually, I have 3 little kids of my own who I am usually at home at this hour helping to put to bed. But Amy is often here, or someone else from our staff, and I'd really like there to be a dialogue back and forth. We've had a great relationship with Stephen, and thank you. Oh, he's gone. Already gone. But look forward to, John is on our board, and look forward to hearing your thoughts about the Greenway and letting you know what's going on. In an immediately upcoming example of that, on March 11th at the Mariner's office, I think, Amy?
Mariner's House?
Yeah, Mariner's House, excuse me. We're having a community meeting to talk about the planning and thinking about horticulture in the North End parks, and some of the improvements and repairs that are needed in the park. And so would love to see as many of you as possible there. More details on that to come, specific hours and so on. But I'm happy to take questions now if people have any, or in a month or in 6 months. Would like to make sure that good open communication back and forth.
The councilors have a question?
No, I would just add, I'm sorry, just that we had a community meeting like this last year, and as a direct result, we had a few trees planted in the Greenway and some umbrellas because an issue of shade was something of concern. So, these are important to attend, and it's a great opportunity to say what we want to see done, and we've seen that if we can do it, the Greenway that is, then they will. So it's important to hear what the neighborhood wants, so that we can move forward with the Greenway as well.
Phil, could I just add something before we go to the first agenda? Tony Gilardi and I attended a meeting at the building where the Beacon Hill Civic Association is based, at 74 Joy Street in Beacon Hill. This was last Friday night. It was a well-attended small meeting as planned. 13 people attended. There were 4 of us, including Tony and I, and Maria were there. A couple representatives from the Beacon Hill Civic Association itself, Chinatown representative, Bay Village, and the South End. And we developed a great consensus, which has been building over time. And obviously this will be culminating in the city council hearing that Sal, thank you again for putting together. And this is our window of opportunity to try to change in these downtown neighborhoods the current trash policy as far as the pickup time and whatnot. So we're just trying to get everyone on board, and if as many people as possible can attend, it would just be a great sign of community involvement, neighborhood unity across several neighborhoods that have the same exact trash policies and trash issues that the North End is facing as we speak. Thank you.
It's March 3rd, 6:30, City Hall.
Which is a Monday.
Are there any other Greenway questions before we move on?
Would you mind repeating that loud party hotline number one more time?
Yes, 617.
549-7503.
Thanks, everyone. Now we'd like to call on Denise from the Boston Department of Transportation.
Thank you. I'm Vineet Gupta. I'm Director of Planning at the Boston Transportation Department, and here on behalf of the Transportation Department, the Public Works Department, as well as the BRA. Really like to thank everybody for allowing us to present before the Neighborhood Council. We have a brief presentation. We're going to talk about a bicycle facility, a cycle track around in the Commercial Street area. And I will give a kind of an outline in the beginning and talk about some of the basic points. If you can't see, do you want to walk over that side? I'm sorry.
No worries, I'll move.
All right.
At some point.
I would I'll do a basic outline, and then we have with us Dave Madden from Harvestine Hudson on our consultant team. Behind him is Nick Jackson, who's the tool design group, and they'll get into the detail. So we'll try and be as brief as possible to give you all an opportunity to ask questions. Essentially, we are, the idea here is to be able to create a pedestrian-friendly and a bicycle-friendly, as well as make it easier for vehicles to connect between transit stations and historical sites. That's what we're fundamentally trying to do. We are, with relative to the actual project, we've got some funding from the federal government to actually construct, design once we've got your comments, and construct the project we're going to explain to you. But we are working with some time deadlines that we want to finish our final drawings towards the end of May, early June. That's our schedule, so we can look to start construction later this year or next year. The project that we're talking about today, Commercial Street and portions of Atlantic Avenue, is one of 4 projects that we're doing. There's another one in Beacon Hill on Joy Street. We're going to be looking at Causeway Street as part of this, but it's further on in North Station. We're going to be doing Constitution Road out in Charlestown, and we're going to be doing and Blackstone Block. I'm sorry, Blackstone Block just down the street from here. So the portion that we're going to talk about really goes from Christopher Columbus Park and wraps around a little bit of Atlantic Avenue and then Commercial Street, so the skating rink. So our goal really is to do several things here. One is to make a really pedestrian-friendly environment so that it's safe for everybody who comes to this area. 2, our goal is not to lose a single parking space, on-street parking space. No loss of parking spaces. 3, create a family-friendly bicycle facility so that people with families, people who don't want to go racing down a street on their bikes but do recreational biking can also bicycle. 4, we want to make sure that there is no loss in capacity in terms of traffic. So if we have a certain number of lanes on Commercial Street today, we want to keep the same number of lanes. And try and see if we in fact can make traffic improvements as well. So those are our bigger goals, and we know that the community cares about all of these things, particularly parking and traffic capacity, as well as making a pedestrian-friendly environment. So how do we do this? How do we accommodate all these goals? At its very simplest, what we are doing is we are taking. Today, if you go to Commercial Street, there is a 5-foot bicycle lane on either side of the street. What we are proposing is that we combine, so that's on the section on top. What we are proposing is to combine those 5 feet into a 10-foot two-way cycle track that is on the waterfront side of Commercial Street. And that's okay. And we would separate that from the pedestrian zone, and we would separate it from the vehicular zone, the cycle tracks. By doing that, we are reducing conflicts between cars and bicycles and reducing conflicts between bicycles and pedestrians. That's fundamentally what we're doing. Take the 5 feet cycle tracks, combine them, move them onto the waterfront side, and then you can ask us, well, what else? Next slide. So the first question is, that's great. You have the cycle track, the bicycles, and pedestrians right next to each other. So how do you really separate them if they're on one big sidewalk? And the answer to that is that you will keep the sidewalk as wide and the curve exactly where it is today. So you'll still have the trees, all the trees. You'll still have all the lights. you'll still have all the other street furniture that you find along the curb edge of the sidewalk, and then you have the cycle track. We're also looking at, though this is not for sure, we're also looking at separating a level difference between the pedestrian sidewalk and the cycle track. And then on the other side, you'll have, parking and then the travel lanes. We're also going to reconstruct the sidewalk on the waterfront side, and then on the neighborhood side, where we are not moving the curb at all, we would put in new pedestrian ramps, and obviously put in new crosswalks and the like. We're going to move hydrants around to try and see if we can get more parking spaces actually, because sometimes a hydrant is in the middle of a street, and if you put it to the corner, you can actually get an extra parking space. So we're going to look at doing that as well. We might, not promising, but we'll try and see if we can actually increase the number of parking spaces. The street lights, we are going to put new street lights. These are the pendant style. I don't know if you have a photograph here. I don't think we do, but it's kind of what you find on the central artery, on the greenway. Not at the intersections, but along the greenway. So on both sides of the street, that we try to put that into the budget as well. So that fundamentally is our approach here. Again, very, very sensitive to traffic capacity as well as to on-street parking. So we'll be maintaining that, if not improving it. We're going to go through very quickly kind of some of the benefits of the cycle track, and then if you want, we can go through block by block the detailed design. If people are interested in that, it's really up to you how the council would like us to proceed.
Kind of a modified.
Okay,
We'll go through it quick.
we go to it. Thanks very much.
So, again, my name is Dave Madden from Howard Stone Hudson. We're consultant to the city on this project, along with Nick from Tool Design Group, our bike experts in the United States. So a lot of people ask, what is a cycle track? Again, and Vinny explained it well. It's really an avenue to separate modes of transportation, bikes from vehicles, bikes from pedestrians. And so that's really what this does. And what it does is, you can see from this pie chart down here, as far as bicycling goes, there are some people that are bicyclists that will travel down, as Nick points out, Stour Drive, no problems. But then there are folks that no way, no how are they ever going to bike anywhere ever. And then there are the enthused and confident people that you see out on the streets and obeying the traffic laws and everything. And this group here that we're trying to get and capture as part of this is the interested but concerned about safety. And those are the folks that we're trying to get as part of this project, to use a cycle track that's more pedestrian friendly for the pedestrians and more cycle track friendly for the bicyclists. Cycle tracks and pedestrians, one of the things that this project does is we're actually reducing the amount of crossing space. And so Vineet explained it, that we have 2 in-lane cycle track, bike lanes today, 10 feet wide. What we're doing is they're actually moving one curb line closer in, so the crossing distance for pedestrians is less. And we're also reducing the number of conflicts with bicyclists by separating those modes of traffic. And by putting in a facility that is dedicated for bicyclists, we're hoping to get bicyclists off the sidewalk as well. So again, increasing safety. One of the things that we're trying to do is work this whole plan into the overall master plan of the city of Boston. You know that a lot of things have been done in the city over the years, including the 2 bike lanes on Commercial Street today. And so this is a modification of that one that will connect to the big picture for bike facilities in the city of Boston, which the administration is very committed to. I'm going through this real quick, so we'll answer questions at the end. One of the things that we did is we compared traffic volumes. We just did a traffic study earlier or late last year, and compared that to how traffic operated before you had bike lanes on Commercial Street. What we noticed really is that there hasn't been a lot of a difference in the volume of traffic. There has been a decrease in some instances, but essentially it's stayed the same in both AM and PM. Is what we found from the study that we've looked at. The other thing that we did is we looked at, well, traffic we know is different when there's an event at the Garden on Commercial Street as compared to when there's not. And so we did those comparisons. But overall, you can see here with the blue being during an event and the red being when there's not an event. Although there is an increase in traffic on Commercial Street, essentially it's not any difference. One of the things that we are doing as part of this project, though, is we're looking at all of the traffic signals that run along Commercial Street all the way from Atlantic Avenue at the Greenway all the way over to North Washington Street. And we're looking at retiming the entire set of signals so that they're synchronized, so that the progression through the north end will be much improved over what you experienced today. So that's going to be a big change if you're driving a car on Commercial Street, which is, I think, a good thing for everyone. And so I'm going to run through the sections real quickly. And so this is starting at the Atlantic Avenue. This is Cross Street over here. So at each one of the signals that are out there today, one of the new things that we're doing at every traffic signal is we're putting in bicycle signals as part of this. And so if you're a bicyclist on the cycle track, you will have your own indications over your lane to let you know when it's appropriate for you to go or stop. And so that's a big difference than what's out there today. Today, there's no regulations for bikes other than, hopefully them following the rules of the road for regular signals. But this will be a bike signal, so it'll be a bike indication with a bike stencil on the signal dedicated just for the bikes. So it'll be very clear when they should stop or go. A lot of bikes today either follow the vehicle signal or the pedestrian signal, depending on what's more convenient for them, and this is a change to that. So this is something new for the city of Boston. So this section here of Commercial Street, so this is essentially in front of Christopher Columbus Park, and so this section is a little bit different from all the other sections of, that I'm going to show you. As you know, here on the park side, there is no parking, basically from Atlantic Avenue all the way over to where Joe's American Bar and Grill is, so there's no parking on that side of the street. And so our treatment of the cycle track here is a little bit different from everywhere else that I'm going to show you. Here what we're doing is, and this is a cross-section here, and again, we're not changing anything on the neighborhood side, so we're still going to maintain the existing parking. And in fact, we're going to do a little minor geometric change over here to get a couple more parking spaces in, if we can. But we're making pedestrian improvements on this side of the street, keeping the parking, keeping the travel lane in the south direction. In the north direction, same thing, we're keeping 2 travel lanes. And then we're going to have a separation of a median that's going to be 2 to 3 feet wide. And it's going to be raised 6 inches. And this is going to separate the bikes from the travel lanes. And so there'll be a physical separation between the two. The curb line that runs along Christopher Columbus Park there today, we're not going to change that at all. We're not actually going to reconstruct any of that sidewalk. We didn't really want to get into too many park issues along this side or dealing with how to treat that. And so, we're going to maintain what's out there today. So if you're crossing, as a pedestrian crossing across there, you'll have your pedestrian signals as you do right now, but the difference will be we'll have bikes on one side of the street with bike signals. Now, as you continue down Commercial Street, one of the things that we're doing is we're going to look at bus stop locations along both sides of Commercial Street to see if we can be a little bit more efficient with where the buses are located, to see if we can't get a couple more parking spaces in actually, and just how it works with the overall cycle track and parking. So we're looking at the bus stops as part of this project. When you get down here, which is at grade cycle track, so the bicyclists have the same elevation as the vehicles. What we'll do is we'll ramp up just after you get through this intersection. So here they'll be at an elevation that is 3 inches, most likely 3 inches less than what the pedestrians will be at. And so if you're looking at it from cross-section, you'll have parking, and so we're maintaining all the parking on that side of the street. We'll have a 2-foot buffer, which is raised 6 inches, and it's 2 feet wide. And that way, if you're a car or a motorist, you open the car door on that side of the street, you don't take out a bicyclist. And so there's a buffer zone there that allows you to open the door without impacting the cycle track. And then we'll have 2 5-foot cycle track lanes, which will likely be 3 inches higher than the travel lanes. And then we'll go up to 3 inches higher to the existing sidewalk. Vinny mentioned all of the sidewalks from here on out, though, we are reconstructing. And so the plan is to reconstruct those to make them accessible. And the other thing is, wherever our plan right now throughout the whole section is, wherever there's a healthy tree, we're going to keep that tree. We're going to keep the light location, the street light location. However, the shoeboxes that you have for indications on outside the street, we're replacing those with the pendant lighting on both sides of the street, of Commercial Street. Moving down, and again, same type of treatment. When we get to a driveway, what we're looking at doing is creating basically at every driveway location or crossroad location an apron where the vehicles have to actually slow down to go up over the cycle track and also over the sidewalk. That way it'll be a little bit more safe to make that crossing. And again, wherever you have a signal, the bicyclists will be controlled separately as well as the pedestrians. Just continuing down, it's the same treatment all the way down Commercial Street. Here again is a cross section. One of the things that we did look at doing is there was a fatality here at this intersection. You know, a lot of it is due to the poor sight distance coming around a very sharp curve, and so we are going to be putting up some signs and also some roadway markings to warn people in advance of that curve. But the cross section here, again, will remain the same, 10-foot wide cycle track and an 8-foot minimum, but in most instances as wide as or wider than what you have today for a sidewalk on that side of the street. The cycle track ends here, and so basically from this intersection of Charter Street all the way over to North Washington Street, the width there and the right-of-way that we have really doesn't allow us to do anything to widen the street, to put in bike lanes or any of that. And so the cycle track will take a diversion out behind the skating rink and connect underneath the North Washington Street Bridge and then come back out onto Causeway Street down North Beverly Street. And so that's how that connection is made. We're making some signal changes here to put the crosswalk more visible to people coming around the corner. And so it'll be a little bit more angled than what it is today, but it'll be an exclusive pedestrian phase where the bikes that are in the street run that way and also run behind the skating rink. We have some quick renderings of a comparison. So this is really what the existing is on the approach to the ballpark and what the proposed would be. The color of that isn't quite accurate. It'll be a little bit more brick type of color, but that's essentially what that will look like at the end of the day. And that's good.
Thank you.
I have a comment and a question. You know, obviously $23 million is a lot of money. I would rather see something like that be used for a new school. You know,
That's
safer.
wonderful.
I know. Can you just let me finish? Thank you. You know, a new school, safer streets, cleaner streets, but you know that's besides the point. That's my own opinion. However, you know, it looks like this money's already been distributed, and the cycle track is something that they're looking to install. I'm concerned with the parking issue on Commercial Street, especially during the winter months. Right now, we have the existing flat cycle track, which isn't used very much during the winter time. So people have the opportunity to kind of use that as an overflow when the streets don't get plowed like they should. If you have an elevated track now these cars can be hanging out into the street where the actual traffic lanes are, and that creates a huge problem. Thank you.
I was going to make comment. The lanes on one side of Commercial Street will be 2, and then on the return side will be 1?
No, wrong.
So it'll be 2 and 2?
No, there'll be just 2 on the waterfront side and no cycle lanes on the street.
No. The travel lanes.
Same as today. Same as today.
No,
The vehicle lanes will be the same
as today.
As today.
But there will be no bicycle lanes on the street.
Okay, but the problem is that if you're traveling inbound towards, say, towards the parks, Commercial Street narrows, and right now you have an opportunity, like was just mentioned, that if somebody stopped at a left, at a light and trying to take a left, and it blocks up traffic all the way down Commercial Street, right now you can still swing into the bike lane and get around these people so that you can make the light. when it's a single track, like Ryan was just saying, you can't now jump up onto the bike track to get around. It's going to back up traffic significantly.
What we're trying to do is that, it's a good question, and what we're trying to do is that single lane and cycle lane that goes towards the park, kind of the inbound move, we're trying to make that as wide as possible. So right now you have an extra 5 feet with the bicycle lane. So when we're done, in some places, we'll only lose about a couple of feet. So it might be that we can expand, and you guys should correct me. So it's about 11 feet today. So in some places, today is 11 plus 5. 11 feet for the travel lane and 5 feet for the bicycle lane. And like you said, that once the bicycle lane goes, then you don't have place to bypass. Right. So we're very cognizant of that, and we're trying to find feet to widen the travel lane itself. So instead of 5 feet, you may have 3 feet or 4 feet.
But it's still not going to be enough. And then, as Ryan just mentioned, once it's piled with snow, it's going to cause significant amount of traffic on the inbound lane. Significant.
Right now, I understand the issue exactly, but right now all our calculations are based on one lane going in that direction. It's not based on 2 lanes. And technically, of course, you can't be on the cycle lane. But
Can I ask you a question? Considering the fact that we have, like, the time of winters here, this is only going to be used maybe 4 or 5 months of the year. Is it worth spending $23 million into doing something of this nature? And why is it that we always get these projects after they've already been approved and thought out, instead of letting us involved in, we're getting a presentation about what is it that you guys are going to do to our neighborhood, but we're not being asked, hey, what do you think if we want to do this to your neighborhood? I mean, and that's a big issue. I bike every day, in the summer, in the winter, in the fall, and I never use the bike things. They're not safe, they're not respected, they're not visible in the winter time, in the month, with salt and snow. Again, you don't have to plow those in the winter month, whether you like it or not, because we're not going to have abandoned stretches of 10 feet wide pieces of sidewalk, whatever you want to call them, that they're not going to be used, but they're going to be full of snow. Again, we do collect revenue from excise tax from vehicles. That's what usually pays for the upkeep and the care of the streets. We're allocating a big chunk of our streets to bicycles. I don't want to pay, as a bicycle, somebody who rides a bicycle for bike lanes. The other one too is that the geographical placement of the bicycles is kind of like a bridge to nowhere. There's portions of Atlantic Avenue that don't really take you anywhere. I mean, there's not much to see for the waterfront if you're going in front of the baseball fields, the ice skating rink, the Coast Guard. Before the Coast Guard, there's a huge amount of that space that is really, you can look at the side if you wish, but it's kind of like the walls of the village. So I just don't understand why we would spend $23 million in this economy to do something of that nature with money for other things.
Can I comment a little bit on that?
Yeah.
Well, first thing, the funding for this project is federal money. It's through a grant that the federal government has given for this specific project.
Taxpayer money.
I'm just trying to say that it's not coming from the city's budget. There is a match, a 25% match from the city, but all the money is coming from federal grant. So it's not that we could have used the money for something else impossible.
Yeah, but the fact that they're giving you money to do
Yeah, I understand
doesn't necessarily mean that bicycle lanes, that doesn't mean that we have to take the money either. It's
Right. I
Well, back from the money and-
understand that. I just wanted to clarify that it's not city dollars.
No, I understood, it's taxpayer dollars. At the end of the day,
I agree.
It's not federal funding, it's not city money, it's taxpayer
Right.
money. So it's our money, it's our streets.
And the other piece of we have been doing some community meetings over the last year. We've done a total of 4 meetings. This is our 5th meeting out in the community. We came in very early. There's still a lot of opportunity to comment on the design. Nothing is set in stone. So we have been doing a fairly extensive community process, and then for the last 6 months, we first came just with ideas. The third piece has to do, you were asking about, cycle track to nowhere. And as our map showed earlier, it's part of a larger network. So when you're coming, for example, on Atlantic Avenue, there's a cycle track along the Greenway, along the entire length, all the way from South Station. So then you would take a right if you're on a bicycle along Commercial Street, you would go around Commercial Street, you still have the bicycle facilities, and you go around behind the rink and connect up underneath North Washington Street Bridge and back to Causeway. It's actually a very important piece of a bigger network to get from.
Yeah, we were told the same when the first lanes were put up, and I think they were at the price of $55,000 a mile. And I thought at the time that was a lot of money. The $23 million, believe me, it's a lot more money than I thought it would be. And when we look at how much distance you're covering, it's a very small distance. But also the other thing too is that we're looking at traffic in Boston. One of the big issues we have is we go from very wide access roads to funnels. Okay? For example, if you're coming from Charlestown, you get to the bridge. The bridge is very narrow, goes down to 2 lanes. Now we're going to do the same thing to Commercial Street. If you're familiar with Commercial Street, you get a lot of the above artery traffic traveling northbound on Commercial Street on the outskirts of North End. Now you're going to narrow that out.
Again, we're not changing the number of lanes on Commercial Street. It's actually the same as what you have today.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that you're having space to put bicycles, a 10-foot lane.
That's what you have there today as well.
No, I understand. But a 10-foot lane is why you have to put another traffic lane, which would alleviate traffic, which is really what we got problems with. We don't have problems with bicycle traffic, we have problems with car traffic.
Who's gonna maintain the tracks?
The Public Works Department will be applying the tracks.
So that's an additional cost, so now they have to like shovel it off from possibly October to April.
Yeah, from cleaning streets, from everything.
Are they gonna fix up behind the skating rink?
Not as far as I know, not as part of this project.
So you can drive a bike.
There's an existing, somebody can.
It's a shared use path today. Yeah. But there are improvements being made, and there's
There's
also.
lighting back there?
Yes, yeah. And where there is not, we'll be adding any lighting. So there might be some improvements that are happening behind there, all the way over to Causeway Street as part of this project.
Just to add quickly, you might know there's currently a underpass underneath the North Washington Street Bridge that's been closed for many years. As part of the Lovejoy Wharf project, they're going to be rebuilding that wharf, and as part of that project, they will reopen the underpass for walking and biking traffic to connect you to where the locks Charlestown. DCR is also in the process of building a new bridge to connect you from where the locks meet Beverly Street to go over the train tracks to connect south along the Charles River. So this will connect into that facility, connecting you to the paths along the Charles River.
So there will be a division between pedestrian traffic and bikes?
Not on the sections that are off the street. Those will be designed like other, shared use paths. So no, there will be no separation.
As part of your due diligence and coming up with your plans, which I assume you modified due to the community input process that you alluded to a moment ago, did you conduct any study or studies to see of any other cities, domestically and or internationally, to see where something very similar to this, with very similar, if not identical, population density, narrow streets, et cetera, exist, to see if did you bring to the table a successful example of basically what you're trying to do here that already exists somewhere else?
Yes, and there are examples internationally in older European cities where this is what people are designing and building and have been building for 15, 20 years. But Nick, if you want to talk about examples in the United States, particularly in New York and DC and Chicago, where these things are now everywhere.
Yeah. And also older cities like Baltimore and Philadelphia. I think a lot of this has come from the recognition that we can't expand capacity. It's very difficult to add more roads, more space in our cities. It's very constrained. Also that there are many people who want to bicycle. They understand that it can be healthy, it can be economical, it can be fun, but they're concerned about riding traffic. So I think the research being done is showing that many more people are turning to bicycling if you can build facilities like this that are separated from traffic as well as from the sidewalk. So this is a lot of research into this.
Are you seeing more successful examples of this on the East Coast as opposed to the West Coast? Just because I feel that I feel like the bicycle culture, even though it's changing, I feel it's much more deeply ingrained on the other side of the country. Here it's obviously much more of a challenge to get people on board, and with older cities and streets, I was just curious.
I think we're catching up. I think the basic fundamentals of human behavior and stress, mixing with traffic, being next to faster moving traffic is pretty well understood, and I think that translates. I think what we are seeing is cities that are building these networks are seeing a more rapid increase in bicycling. So I like to think we're
So New York and Baltimore have these. New York has miles and
New York
miles.
has been one of the pioneers.
What part of the city though?
Throughout.
Manhattan.
I think Manhattan obviously has a wider network, many many one-way streets, right? In Manhattan, especially. Baltimore has many streets, like Boston, narrower. This is not something that we can do on every street in Boston. That's certainly the case, but it's something that we think is appropriate in this location.
Well, have you explored the possibility of using the dual path that already exists? We have a path that goes from Charlestown all the way to South Boston, and instead of reinventing the wheel, why not just make that path a dual path?
We're gonna get to spend the $23 million.
Save, you can still give us the 23 million, we can rebuild this facility.
The other thing too is when we talk about, cities in the world that have been doing this for 15, 20 years.
But has it been
Mind you, those cities,
explored, excuse me, Jeff,
are
I'm sorry.
bankrupt.
But has it been explored where, we already have the path, it's a prettier route for someone who is biking recreationally. They can go along the water and it's always clear and it's already there and it's free.
I think one of the problems, though, is that it's not wide enough to separate those two modes of traffic safely. You have pedestrians essentially wandering throughout that pathway, and to have that separation, it's just not wide enough to do that,
They
unfortunately.
do it on the Boston Common, they do it
It's
on.
not, biking is not allowed on the
Charles
Boston
River.
Common.
They don't allow bicycles in those areas.
What about skateboarders? Are we gonna do anything for skateboarders?
I hope not.
Is there any money for skateboarders?
I hope not.
No. What about rollerbladers? That's becoming, would there be room for that too?
I would like to point out.
That's my point of view, you know what I'm saying? We seem to be, what about guys in scooters, little
Yeah,
push-up
I'd like to point out
scooters?
one
Ladies
thing.
with baby carriages that are afraid of walking with pedestrians.
It's not,
I would not do
it's
anything
not
for
10
it.
feet, it's 14 feet that's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Because you never mentioned the buffer zone.
How much is the buffer?
2 feet.
No, first you say 3, then you're gonna leave, that's
It's
what
2
you
to 3
said
feet is
before.
what I said.
Then you're gonna have another buffer zone between the bikes and the pedestrians.
No.
So it's 4 feet.
No, the curb line that exists today for the pedestrians will be the curb line for the pedestrians in the future. We're not changing the width of the sidewalk at all. We're taking the 2 10-foot lanes and putting it into the cycle track. In some instances, the road is wide enough to have 2 11-foot or 3 11-foot travel lanes and have a 2-foot buffer. And so that's why it'll vary in width from 2 feet to 3 feet where we can.
I think that, like I said, I bike all the time. Many times on Commercial Street, I like going to the waterfront, I like doing the harbor walk thing on the bicycle. There's nobody biking on those things, guys, okay? And, the presentation was similar 3 years ago for those lanes, or whatever amount of time it was, and the presentation now is the same idea. We're gonna get families to bike, it's the right thing to do. You're not gonna get people to bike in here where you can't put your bike at home. People use the public bikes, they were very much used during the summer. I just don't know if, we have bicycle lanes on 7th Street, which is one width, I think it's 11 feet maximum with everything, and there's a bicycle painted in the middle of it, like you were gonna go in a different direction. You can't go in any other way. That's also money spent that shouldn't be spent,
Can I just add something, for those of you spent, there are more and more people in the north end that have bikes today than ever before.
But
If you look at the
bike
hubway,
lanes,
the hubway is so successful now that we're expanding hubway throughout the city. People are using bike lanes now.
I just don't think we have to buy them the bike.
But listen, but people are using them.
I understand, but I
So
don't think
they-
the taxpayers should be sponsoring those bikes. I should, it's a different point of view.
Yeah,
It's a different point of view. We are I'm on the
Yeah.
paying end.
Yeah.
You guys are
Well,
on the
just
spending
federal
end.
money.
So,
Just federal money.
It's taxpayers'
Yeah,
money.
it's
There's not such a thing as
But
federal
this-
government.
But
There's not-
bikers.
There's not such a thing. You
No,
have to
no,
decide, it's
I-
not government money.
No, it's not. I'm just saying,
government money.
but there's
It's
a
all
lot of
our
people
money.
that use bikes now, way more today than 10 years ago.
They're not on your bike lanes.
Picture.
I understand, but they're not on your
Every
bike lanes. I understand, but they're not on your bike lanes. That's
If
the
it's safe,
thing.
They put bike racks along the road so people can keep their bikes there.
Yeah, we're looking at different locations where it makes sense.
Only where it makes sense, because we don't want bicycles to be coming in the way of the pedestrian sidewalks.
In the cities where most bicycles are used in the world, people bicycle with traffic, all right? I mean, it's a given. If you go to Asia, you go to India, you go to Latin America, people where bicycles are used where they make an impact on pollution, not for leisure driving. It's people drive on the street. You have to drive on the street. You cannot paint enough bike lanes to get people from A to Z. You know, just $23 million is a sticker price that for the amount of space to go around the North End, $23 million from whatever government it comes from is an atrocity.
Just for the record, the 23 million is to do all of Constitution Road, all of Stanford Street, all of Cosgrave Street, all of Commercial Street, all of Joy Street, and all of Blackstone Block. That's for the 23 million. And all of it is not bike lane, that's for sure.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions?
So what are your, did you do any analysis on what the projected maintenance cost of this would be? So the 23 million is to build it. And I think it was referenced earlier, now we have to, plow it and maintain it. Was there any analysis done on what that cost would be?
The only additional cost would be the plowing of the cycle track compared to the cost that everybody spends today. That's the only additional cost.
And what is it?
I don't have a calculated amount, but because of all the cycle tracks that are being built all over the city, this will become part and parcel of our maintenance responsibilities.
Before you ask the question, just say your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary Ellen Burns, 328 Commercial Street. My question was, someone else had asked about like additional bike racks because there's no place to put bikes and people are chaining their bikes already up to our buildings. So, I mean, is that part of the $23 million? Is that already paid for, like to put those near the ones where you can rent the bikes? And also, just a follow-up question, you can answer both. And also, the traffic impact on Commercial Street was already substantial when we lost a travel lane. And so I'm sorry, who wants to talk to? And just wondering, I know you said you're going to change the timing of the lights, but is there anything else kind of the consideration of that? Because I think that's a concern for us, because at rush hour now, the traffic is really backed up all the way from the Greenway, up, down to Battery Street. So it's a pretty substantial impact already, and we're just wondering what this will mean. So
on the bicycle rack piece, we're happy to install bicycle racks wherever you'd like us to install them as part of this project, or even as not as part of this project. So you can let us know afterwards. That's not heavy lift. You can talk a little bit about the traffic.
So besides the improvements that we're making to the signal timing, one of the other things is that traffic, when you have an adjacent bike lane, traffic has that friction with the bike lane. When you take that mode out and put it on the sidewalk, it reduces that friction, so it improves how drivers behave riding down the street. So there's a marginal increase in capacity due to that as well. But typically, we're not going to expect to see a huge improvement over what you have today, given that you're down one travel lane. So that's
We use that space for parking, still parallel parking.
Parking in the bike lane?
No, in the bike lane, without a bike lane. I mean, you're telling us we need bike lanes. We're telling you what we need. We need parking. We need streets that are clean. We need all sorts of things. We need safety. We never asked for bike lanes. I don't think anybody here did a petition to get bike lanes. And we've done petitions to get signs for parking. We've done petitions to get the garbage picked up in a timely, efficient manner. We've done all sorts of things. But we never asked for $23 million of any of our money, whether it's federal or state or city, to put bike lanes there and inconvenience us with additional traffic. Is a big issue. It's a huge issue. Everybody was very happy these last couple of weeks with the snowstorms because the city picked up the snow efficiently. This is going to be an obstacle to pick up the snow efficiently. It is a loss of space 7 months out of the year that really gets very little use, for a gain for 5 months of the year, which is insignificant. It's a gain in contracts, it's a gain in all sorts of other things, it's a gain in profits, but...
Bill Furlow, 4 Travis Street. I think what you said, pick up on what Mary Ellen Burns said, is that traffic that goes southbound at that light on Cross and the Greenway, you'll spend a half an hour getting from Battery Street over to the Greenway at 5 o'clock. That's because when the lanes is gone, like you just said, in the statistics, the traffic hasn't changed, which means you're diverting twice as much traffic into one lane. Then, couple that, you have a block-to-box scenario at that intersection, because you have the emptying out of the southbound tunnel, gets to the light, can't get through the light, blocks the second exit and making a turn. So if you go
No
by
room to
there,
move into it. Yeah.
5 to 6 o'clock, that intersection's a mess, which just prevents anyone from getting southbound. So
I think, that's one of the things we can definitely look into as part of this project. Not only how it happens on Commercial Street, but basically from that intersection all the way up to North Washington Street Bridge. That progression through there is also key, so that when you process the traffic off the off-ramp, you clear it out so you have room to move in from Commercial Street. That's one of the problems, is you're not having enough queuing.
yeah, I'm just curious why it's one lane on the southbound and 2 lanes on the northbound, because it doesn't seem to.
Well, there's twice as much traffic in the other direction, that's why.
One other thing, you gotta pay attention to the school there at the end of Atlantica. We have the school and we have the funeral home, which also block traffic there. So we're taking lanes away.
We're not taking lanes away there.
Or whatever we're doing, it doesn't matter.
We're not changing anything.
We're not changing anything in that section.
Where does the bike lane go behind and on the water?
So here's the funeral home is over here. It's
The
before.
funeral home double parks cars all the way sometimes past the baseball field.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're changing this curb alignment a little bit to get a little bit more in this area. So this is new over here under this scenario. Today it comes out a little bit differently than what this is. So we're not really changing that situation at all, as far as how many cars or double park, single park, whatever's happening over there.
What is it, a bike?
The bike will be out of conflict with that. It'll be off the street behind that.
Excuse me, one more question. I know that you probably did some traffic studies. I hope that you did some traffic studies. Have you updated them to include the new residents that will be moving into Lovejoy Walk?
Yes.
The 500 residents that are going to be moving into the garden project, the 310 hotel rooms and all the additional
All of our
traffic?
projects are built out 20 years. With all the known developments that are happening in the area, we increase our projected traffic volumes to take into account all of those projects. And that's where we do our analysis as part of that.
Are you guys ever wrong or is it always right on?
Thank you guys for coming in. It seems like an important project, as you can tell from the amount of comments that it's generated. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item of business is 326 to 328 Commercial Street. I, as you can probably tell, am related to the applicant, so I'm going to be recusing myself. So I'm going to hand everything over to John.
I'm surprised that people would actually buy a piece of property and a piece of property that has something they don't like.
It has something they like now.
No, but it has something. What do you like? You like a restaurant that does not work. These folks are selling the
But
restaurant.
you're assuming it's not going to work. I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm asking you a question. I'm just asking a question. I mean, how would it be if the members of a condominium association go together and says, the guy in apartment 4 has plants in the balcony. We don't want plants in the balcony. Let's get rid of the guy in apartment 4. I mean, you have a business downstairs. It's advantageous for the business to work. You have closing hours that are extremely reasonable, which are the same closing hours you have now. I remember things that were going on back there 30 years ago were a lot graver than serving alcohol. It was a different type of restaurant, it was a different time in history, and the characters that were hanging around there were a lot more savory than most of us care to talk about. Again, the neighborhood has changed. We have businesses downstairs. The businesses that you're talking about, the bicycle shops, the bun shops, the butcher shops, the ice cream places, are not working because the people who live here don't support it. Everybody goes to Whole Foods, everybody goes to the supermarket, everybody goes somewhere else. Have you guys thought about maybe buying the place and turning it into something else, all of yourself together, and just not having a restaurant upstairs? I mean, as a solution to never having a restaurant again.
We're not saying we don't run a restaurant. We're saying that we don't want to remove the
So the
restrictions.
building is zoned to have a restaurant in it.
No zoning
Anyway,
changes.
for 30 years. Huh?
No zoning changes are needed.
No, I know there's no sense only changing either, but I'm just saying, you all bought property in a building that was shown for so many units plus a restaurant. And now you guys are hoping to get rid of the restaurant.
I'm confused with the part where a fine dining restaurant turns into a bar room. Two totally different businesses. If I want to open a bar room, I'm sure he'd be looking at Faneuil Hall. He'd be looking near the garden. You know, I don't think this is going to be a bar room.
I have to, wait, are you speaking for him? I mean, if
No,
you
no,
have
no.
comments to make to us, but I'm sorry, but I mean.
I said you had great points though, the smoke and everything. He could have a maitre d' at the front door and say no one can hang in this alley, no one can smoke.
I mean,
that makes it better
again,
for you.
I think that Donato has the best of intentions. I don't think that he wants to have people in there, but if he's going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a liquor license, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a space, if that's the crowd that he gets is people that are looking for a new bar in the neighborhood, then that's the business that he's going to have. I mean, that's just, you know, kind of the nature of the beast. Just as I'm not trying to predict the future, you guys can't predict the future. That's all I'm saying. We're just trying to deal with what we can control, and the restrictions that exist are what we're trying to control in this situation. We welcome another restaurant down there. Like I said, we'd love to, you know, bring you business.
Gabriella?
Yes.
If I said to you, I'm gonna put an oyster bar down there, does it sound better than a food bar? Right? I'm gonna be serving food at the bar. Like Neptune on Silver Street. They serve food at the bar, they call it an oyster bar. So you want me to call it an oyster bar instead of food bar, I'll call it an oyster bar, if that makes you happy.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the restrictions on the license.
You have to understand, if it wasn't for the restaurants here in the North End, you don't know how much crime there was here back in the 70s. Because of the restaurants, the North End is the safest place to be in the world. I'm not asking you to be open until 2:30 a.m. I'm asking you, I'm gonna be closing at 11:30 at night. After that, I promise you, there is no one noise you hear from me.
And 12 seats at a dining bar, whatever we call the bar, doesn't make it a bar room.
But then why do you need to remove the restriction that you can't serve, people come in and have an appetizer and a drink? I mean, that's, they're having food.
Because in fact, people go in, you would go in after work, you might sit at the bar, have a cocktail, have an appetizer, and go home after that.
Mary Ellen, you'll be
That's the
surprised
nature.
how many people come to my place. They sit at the bar with their child next to them and eat at the bar, while the parent watch the game and the child is sitting between them and eat.
And that's fine with the condition of with food, having a cocktail.
Well, if that's something you want to talk about, you should have started that conversation 3 months ago when I called your
The
dad.
conversation was that there was going to be no compromise in the 3 situations.
Who did you get that?
Which is why there was
Who
no-
did you get the no compromise other than from your own office?
Then we can have the discussion about that. That's something that you were saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't keep referring to us as saying, no, we started the conversation. We attempted the conversation. I spoke to your dad twice.
But we weren't even aware, Bill, that this was proceeding until the 22nd of January, when we received a notice for a meeting that, the 22nd you mailed them, the 24th of January, we got notice of a ZLC subcommittee meeting for NEWRA. That was the first thing that.
That was my notice.
With the wrong meeting dates, by the way, that we never got a corrected one. You still sent something out that said the meeting was on the 16th, it's on the 13th.
And the reason that you didn't hear anything else is, when I'm told we don't want to talk about it, when I'm told by Michael Merrill that the trustees don't want to meet with you, they don't want to talk about it, what am I supposed to do, call you individually and ask you to change your mind? What else can I do?
But you were aware that we didn't want it. You're still moving forward with buying something and trying to force something down our throats.
Position. Your counsel is saying we should sit and try to compromise, but you're saying there is no compromise.
Well, I mean, you guys started the no compromise, so. We don't want to remove, I mean, there is no compromise for us on removing the liquor license, like to have liquor with no food, there is no compromise on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just feel like this conversation is a little bit of a waste because, you know, it's he said, she said.
Can I have your name and address? I'm sorry.
Michelle Euro, 328. You know, as I listened to this, and I just found out about it, I guess at the end of January with everybody else. And when I look at this, you know, I think, you know, you have some nice plans, and again, welcome a nice establishment. For me, I think about so it's great if your plan works out. I'm a little concerned about, in the future, if you decide to sell, and with those restrictions gone, how could we protect ourselves maybe from the next time someone comes in? And when those restrictions are removed, somebody can come in and go ahead and open the bar that we're ready. So that's my concern. In terms of having a nice fine dining restaurant, fantastic. Easy for me to go in the winter.
And I would offer you this evening, as I did 3 months ago, if you want to talk about the restriction of dining, alcohol served with meals, we are glad to
Okay,
speak
well,
to
I think that, yeah, so you're saying you're willing to talk about,
you. Because that's the nature of his business, is that.
I would like to invite you over my presence in the window.
pardon?
I would like to invite you over upstairs, either Boston or Winchester, and see what type of restaurant they operate.
Okay.
So my point to that is, it isn't a dialogue that we didn't attempt. We attempted this.
I know, we've been through that.
Okay, I'm just saying,
I know,
saying.
I don't care, honestly, at this point,
Here's my
where
question.
we're at.
Can I have a question? Am I hearing that maybe you guys will be interested in talking with the party at hand about restrictions on service at the bar with food only?
Wait a minute, what?
When do you
They say, what I'm saying is would you be interested in talking to them about having a setup where if there is a bar, service at the bar is accompanied with food, so it's alcohol with food?
What, just removing the no bar and
No,
leaving,
no
they have to
food.
serve
No,
like alcohol with food?
Yes, no,
I
not
mean,
removing the bar.
at this
Leaving the
point,
bar-
I mean, have to be honest with you, if this conversation was a few months ago, and Bill, I mean, that may have happened, and we'll go back to Mike, it's a he said, she said, I agree with Michelle, I don't want to get into it, but I feel like we've been told that there was no compromise, so if that's something we can talk about, then we can.
If I would invite council, first thing,
On the 14th, Mike will be here and he can respond.
it's a different meeting, different group. It's a different
Well,
group.
everyone can come to that one.
If Michael, if Michael is there, all right, he would repeat what I just said. We never said there's no conflict. We said, let's sit and talk about it. The response was, and I was there for the conversation you had with Donato. So I happened to be standing next to him when he was on the phone with you, and that's way back before we even signed on the dotted line. Okay, when you said, there's no discussing these. There's no discussing.
I said, we have no interest. I did not say there's no discussion. I said, we have no interest in this. He said, and Bill, let's be clear, because I have a very clear memory of it as well. He said, I'm thinking about buying this.
Correct.
You know, this is what I would like to do with it. What would you guys think of that? And I told him, because several years ago, back in 2004, these guys had wanted to put in a bar and to make these things. We went through the whole building. We had everyone vote on it at that time, and there was no appetite for it. The people that we talked to at the time when we, that when you had reached out to us, there was not an interest in doing that.
Sir,
Can I have your name again?
Anthony Giswaldi, family that owns Derby Day. In 2004, the bar that was proposed, real quick, we never got it off the ground, was on street level. The restaurant is down in the basement with a buffer zone.
But I also had a conversation with your brother that you were not present for, about putting a bar downstairs. You were not there. You weren't even around, Anthony. He wasn't there.
I wasn't there. I got the message. You spoke, and there was no buffer zone. And before we even proposed anything, they ran and got the signatures. We never pursued it. There is a buffer zone because I thought I heard, I might be wrong, that they share a floor and they share a ceiling. You don't share anything with the restaurant. There's an office space, there's no noise. I had a DJ down there. I swear to God, the walls were vibrating. And I walked outside and you didn't hear a peep. You could throw a bomb down there with the brick. And George, you know because you worked there. And you won't hear a sound. The speculation of it being a bar, I mean, I understand, like, if it becomes a biker gang hangout, it's going to be a bad joint. When it becomes a biker gang hangout, we'll put some cops there, and we'll, it's like, I understand the residents, and when we bought the thing, we bought it as our lifetime investment, or someday if it didn't work out, that we could sell it and make it a reasonable sale for the time that we spent there. So the same way you folks have invested in it, we're invested in it. We put a lot of money. It's the biggest unit in there.
I'd rather not air the rest of this conversation here, Anthony, but just end it there. as far as
Well, let's go back to
and
where we were
responsibility.
is if you're asking if we would take back our request on the service of alcohol with food, the answer the matter just gave me is yes. Is that isn't a major portion of what he does. His goal is to run restaurants that he runs today, so that if you came in, the intent is to have you eat at that bar. You can have your drink and eat. You can have your drink and then have your meal, whatever you choose to do. We're not looking to turn this into a bar. 12 seats is not going to make this a bar. And if that is a sticking point, then in fact, we will withdraw that particular request. So.
How many seats does the restaurant have?
How many seats what?
Is the restaurant
Total seats?
104.
104?
That's maximum capacity, but.
But it's also part of what we're so afraid of. If you think about 100 people drinking in something that could be operated as a bar, that's where we have great
100 people can't sit in
concern.
the 12 seats.
I understand.
No, but you don't have any restriction that they have to sit in those seats,
Okay,
Bill.
but
If you
wait,
remove the
no,
restrictions.
Again, what I'm saying on if the restriction is that people are gonna have a lot of drinks with no food, you got our answer. We will take that off.
Mary Ellen, you said initially that, that having the removal of 3 out of the 4 conditions was unacceptable, but 2 out of the 4 was more acceptable, and I think that that's.
No, I
what you're
didn't say,
offering.
I didn't say
That was
that.
a hypothetical that was.
He said, I didn't say that. I'm not disagreeing, but I didn't say that because we haven't had a conversation about compromise at all up until
But
this point.
is that something that is more acceptable to the group that?
We would need to talk about it, I think, on our own, to be honest. I don't really know that we can figure it out here because there's a lot of other people that we would have to talk
The
to.
problem is, when do you have to go in front of the licensing?
They don't have a date yet. Do you have a date?
March 5th.
Oh, you do?
So
Okay, I'm sorry,
We don't
weren't
meet
notified.
again until the 10th. So unfortunately, we're gonna need to make a decision for them. So if they're willing to take it off the table, we need to take a vote.
But we can't, I mean, that doesn't, we don't want to remove the entertainment license restriction, and we had talked about this before. I talked to Donato after the other one. If there's some way to write something where they could have like one big screen, I mean, we still have the fear that it turns into kind of a sports bar.
As you said, you can kind of work out the details, and it probably should have been done long before your appearance here. But they still, we have a time restraint, and we only meet once a month, and the next time we meet is March 10th. So unfortunately, we have to make a decision tonight.
We took this off the agenda because there was an error by the assessors department. The board actually didn't, even though the board knew of hearings, they didn't get a copy of the registered mail, so we took it off last week's agenda and we re-advertised it. And Attorney Merrill's office was notified that that's the tentative date until I get something official.
Yeah, we did hear it was tentative, but we didn't know if there was a new one. They said we'd find out that this week. I mean, I just don't feel that we can comfortably, I mean, if you guys will defer, I don't know, like to another date so we can come back, I don't know what to say, but I feel like we have a lot of other people who are vested in this that we would fairly like to, give them a say in what.
But the other thing is, don't get me wrong, and I see your point, okay? And I'm not one to be on one side or the other, all right? But where are the rest of your members?
They're traveling for business, they have kids, they're at things for the kids. Huh?
Were they notified?
Yeah, they all signed a petition because they knew that
Were
they
they
couldn't.
notified that tonight was the meeting?
Yeah.
Right, then it is what it is, they have to be here.
I'll just mention that I'm from 328 Commercial, just to be on the record, and it's a nice building.
What was your name, ma'am?
Patricia Balmer, and I live at 328 Commercial.
Speak louder, please.
Sorry, I can't over the baby. Sorry, Jeremiah, threw him under the bus. I just wanted to be here to support my neighbors, 328 Commercial. It's a nice building. One of the things that we talk about a lot in the community is how do we attract and retain families to the North End. I live there, I enjoy living there, I've lived there for a couple of years. It's a nice building, and I would just hope that you would think of that and consider that as part of the your deliberations tonight. I do live on the alley side of the building, and it does get loud. It does get loud when folks come through, so that would be a concern that I would have since I live on that alley side, and it echoes quite a bit, even conversations people are having. It does get loud, so I would just ask you to think about the North End. Like I said, it's a very nice building. There's a lot of nice people that live there, and it would be a shame if this were to change. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, I think about the North End all the time, but the North End I think about, it has all these businesses in it. I grew up in a neighborhood that was packed with businesses. I mean, not all of them were restaurants, but I don't know how many people like having the rabbits hanging outside of the window in front of their house. And many of us did, so I understand that personally. For me, I believe that in a city, in a neighborhood like ours, we thrive when we work together, where we embrace the businesses that we embrace and makes things safer. You have a watchful eye till 11:30 at night. I think that you guys are missing out on an opportunity. Somebody's going to buy this place, you know. And if I lived in that property and somebody came up to buy it, I'd be interested in the content of the character of the person who buys it, and whether or not I'm going to be able to have a dialogue with them over time. Okay, as I look to have that dialogue with the tenants and the properties that I rent, where I run my business, and with the landlords. So I think that when we work together, things get done, and it's better. I would have suggested that you guys sit down before this event and try to make some concessions. I mean, being a neighbor involves, making some concessions towards the relationship you have, whether it's a business, whether it's whatever it is. If you have a bicycle shop, I'm sure you can have problems with a bicycle shop downstairs too. But again, I believe the North End is something different than some people believe. You know, I don't believe it's just a residential area. I think it's a mixed-use area, and I think that if we worked with the businesses, as the businesses should work with the tenants or the other people who own property in the building, you can come up to an agreement that works. I mean, the only concession I heard made was from these guys about taking one of those restrictions and keeping it food served with alcohol. Alcohol served with food only, which is which is a reasonable thing. You know, I do run a restaurant with a small bar. My bar has 9 seats. I have 16 units upstairs, and we try to keep. We close early. We have early closing hours, and it's a food bar. And the busiest time at our food bar is 5 o'clock in the afternoon when people get out of work. People are coming home, and they need to have a bite to eat, and they want to have a glass of wine. It's a more affordable way to dine today. People like to eat at a bar because they don't feel obligated to order a multiple course meal. So it's not the end of the world, and what we think of bars, usually is the impression we have of the bars we drank with when we drank that when we were kids, out of college
Can
or
I ask a
whatever.
question? Is your guys' role, and I'm a little confused, is your role to talk us into this?
I'm not talking to you. My role, no, you know what our role is? You know what our role is? Our role is for you guys to get together. This is a venue for you guys to get together and figure out what works. You know what I mean?
Right, no, and
But
I'm
you
very
have to understand,
appreciative of that, but I feel like
what you would like us to do is you would like me to agree completely with you. I agree partially with you. I agree partially with you, and I agree partially with them too. You know, and I run businesses where my businesses are, the people who are upstairs are happy that I'm there. You know what I mean? Because I keep them clean, I keep them organized, I maintain them. You know, I do things that, I think other business people do too.
Do people own the units above your businesses, or do you?
Some of the units, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let me just have maybe one more question, and then I'll have to close it out. Yeah, do you have the address?
Well, I guess I want to just echo the concern
Can
of
I
what...
can I have your name?
I'm Karen Thompson at 320 Commercial.
Can you speak up, please?
Sure. I just want to echo the concern of what would happen in the future when you guys do sell, if the restrictions are lifted. And I'm wondering if, not only could there be 2 instead of 3, not only could there possibly be 2 instead of 3 lift, but what other changes can these restrictions be amended versus dropped? Is kind of what I'm also wondering.
For this applicant only.
Well,
So if you go to the licensing board, at the licensing board, you can put restrictions for this applicant only.
Yeah,
So whatever you
that
do a
works in
compromise,
reverse.
that's what we can do.
Okay, so that
no,
can
but
also
I'm just
be-
saying, it looks like you're singling him out as not working. To answer your question in a better way, is if the restrictions remain that we're saying would remain, service of alcohol with food or meals, they would go through what we're going through right now. The next person is go through the same process and make a case out to the board as to why that should be removed. If it's the televisions, to be quite honest, the board is going to tell us that isn't for us to decide anyway. It's an entertainment issue, and we're not even going to look at that. And they're not going to be the least bit concerned about whether you use 1 or 2 televisions. So we're really on one restriction, and the one restriction is
But
no
Bill,
bar.
can I ask a question, Bill?
Yeah.
In order to go for the TVs to get the entertainment license, you have to get the restriction removed to take that next step.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. 30 years ago, the entertainment board wasn't there.
Right.
Okay, entertainment went through the liquor licensing board. Right. So that's the only reason it's on there. They don't consider that anymore. So background entertainment, such as a TV, is a form. You make out a form and you submit it. And, we're asking to remove it because it shouldn't be there in the first place, to be totally honest with you. And whether it's one large TV or two small TVs.
But what we're saying is that we're not
It's
interested, but I think that what we're saying though on that is that we're not interested in removing, that we're not interested in giving an entertainment license. We would consider something that specifically stipulates like TVs or something like that. I think we're not interested in moving that restriction. If we're being forced to make a decision right now, I think that we're gonna have to stick with what we came in the room with, which is unfortunate, because we'd rather wait and talk to you.
And what you're saying
Because we
is
can't decide for
you'd
everyone.
rather back
But we can't
down
decide for everyone in the building, I don't feel like.
Suggestion, can we table the restrictions and vote on the liquor transfer?
Well, what I've offered to you is what we're willing to submit to you is the transfer with a request to remove 2 restrictions. We'll give up the restriction about the meals with alcohol. So we're not asking to remove that restriction any longer. We'll leave the 11:30 closing, which we already said we would before this meeting started. We'll withdraw a request to change the restriction that says alcohol with meals only, so that'll stay on. So all we're asking for is that we're able to install a bar, whether we call it a dining bar or an oyster bar, whatever you want to call it, it's 12 seats. Okay. And the second one, which is not an issue for the board any longer, is whether we have background music or whether we have background music and a television or 2 televisions, which, by the way, you don't usually turn the volume on. So I can't understand why 2 televisions until 11:30 at night might be an issue, because they don't usually make any noise. But that's our
Do you guys
Uh,
request.
have an issue with the TVs? Because it really wasn't brought up. You
We
have an issue
have
with-
concerns with the TVs and the bar combination.
listen, so-
I mean, this is our concern, is that what they're talking about are the 2 restrictions that, from a practical standpoint, involve their construction. They can still go back later and look to remove those other restrictions, and we feel like we're just being sort of like, they'll already be in there and then whatever, so it's just, it's
Well, we have a,
great
they submitted these 3 out of 4 restrictions, they removed 1. Does the council have does anyone, will entertain a motion to either support or oppose that as it stands?
I'd like to say something to the board. I reached out to Mary Allen in the beginning when I was talking to the Gesualdi families. Bill Ferrullo and Gesualdi's attorney reached out to condominium owners' attorney. They never wanted to talk to us. I think I'm being more than fair coming over here asking for what I'm asking to remove them 3 lines on the license. We also considered to work one out with them. But seems like Mary Allen and her attorney are against everything we're trying to talk to them about. So with that said, I would like you guys to take a vote and take it up from there.
Can I say one thing? Donato and I talked in the fall. I never said that we were not going to talk any further, and actually a conversation ended and I said, call me back. You said you were thinking about this. There was never a conversation that you were definitely buying it or anything else. You said, how would you guys feel about this? Was basically
I think we get the idea from what's going on here. So if the council wants to entertain a motion, then
What we voted.
he asked for as it stands.
No, we'll go with the 2 restrictions. We'll withdraw the other restriction.
So what are the restrictions? I want to make a motion.
The restrictions are the 11:30 closing. No, they'll keep that. The televisions and the removal of no bar.
To construct the bar.
Yeah, in other words, by removing the restriction of no bar, you're allowed to have it. So those are the 2 that we would ask to be.
Is that your motion?
So I make a motion to support the construction of a bar and to 11:30 closing time, correct?
No, it's television.
Oh, to have a couple TVs with no sound. I make a motion to support.
And the transfer.
And the transfer to the license to Donato Farrelly from the Gesualdi family.
I'll second this motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
What's the number?
6-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
I guess there's time for some public discussion. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Other than this?